April 5th, 2026. Somewhere in the heart of Tanzania, a young woman stands in an open field with rose petals arranged on the ground, spelling out her name. A giraffe extends its long neck toward her hand, accepting food in a moment that feels almost dreamlike. The African sun bathes everything in golden light. This is the kind of experience people save for years to have, the kind of memory that's supposed to last a lifetime. Ashlee Jenae Robinson is turning 31 years old today. She opens Instagram, the platform she built from nothing, the community she's shown up for every single day. Her followers number over 100,000. They know her as someone who teaches women to value themselves, to refuse to settle, to live what she calls the soft life. Not a life of luxury for its own sake, but a life where you recognize your worth before someone else convinces you to discount it. She types words that will become the last thing most of the world will ever read from her. Chapter 31. And I'm exactly where I need to be. She means it. You can feel it in every word, even though they're written. This isn't content creation for the algorithm. This is genuine gratitude, genuine happiness, genuine belief that her life is unfolding exactly as it should. The man she believes she's going to marry is somewhere nearby, having orchestrated this surprise, having created this moment for her. Everything looks perfect. 3 days later, Ashlee will be fighting for her life in a hospital bed. 4 days later, she'll be gone. On the evening of April 8th, 2026, at approximately 7:50 in the evening, a room attendant at the Zuri Zanzibar Resort will use his emergency key to enter Villa 25. He'll step into darkness. He'll hear a sound coming from the left side of the room, from the wardrobe area. He'll turn toward that sound and see something that will haunt him for the rest of his life. He'll see Ashlee hanging inside the closet, a bathrobe belt around her neck, one end tied to the hanging rod above her. And she'll be struggling. Not still. Not silent. Struggling. That means alive. That means time still matters. That means every second counts. 19 hours later, at approximately 3 o'clock in the afternoon on April 9th, 2026, Ashlee Jenae Robinson will be pronounced dead at Nazi Moja Hospital in Stone Town, Zanzibar. She's 31 years old. She came to this island to celebrate her birthday and accept what she believed would be a surprise engagement proposal. Instead, she dies in a foreign hospital, far from her family, far from home. The official story from Tanzanian authorities will call this a suicide following an argument with her boyfriend. Ashlee's family doesn't believe it. They say there are too many unanswered questions, too many inconsistencies, too many elements of this case that don't add up. They're demanding answers. They're demanding transparency. They're demanding justice. And they're not the only ones asking questions. Because the more you look at what happened in Villa 25 on the night of April 8th, the more those questions multiply. The timeline doesn't align. The behavior doesn't make sense. The evidence that could provide answers is being withheld. And the man who was with Ashlee that night, the man who planned to propose to her, has said almost nothing. This is the story of Ashlee Jenae Robinson. This is the story of what happened in Zanzibar. And this is the story of a family refusing to let their daughter be forgotten while the truth remains buried. Ashlee's sister, Alyssa, said something after her death that captures who Ashlee was better than any follower count or engagement metric could. She said Ashlee was not just someone online. She was a daughter. She was a sister. She was someone so loved because of the life that she brought. The life that she brought. Think about that phrase for a moment. Ashlee didn't just live her life. She brought life to the people around her. She energized her community. She made her followers believe they could choose better, do better, be better. She made her family proud. She created light and warmth and possibility wherever she went. That's who Ashlee Jenae Robinson was. And here's the cruel irony that makes this case so difficult to process. The woman who taught other women to see red flags, to recognize dangerous patterns, to trust their instincts and leave situations that feel wrong, may have been unable to see her own situation clearly enough. Or worse, may have seen it and not known how to escape in time. 5 months before Ashlee boarded that plane to Tanzania, someone left a comment on her Instagram page. The comment was short and direct. It read, "He's going to harm you. Get out." 5 months before the birthday celebration. 5 months before the proposal was supposed to happen. 5 months before the explosive argument and the separation in the locked room and the discovery in the closet. Someone in Ashlee's community saw something that set off every alarm in their head. They felt compelled to warn a stranger. They wrote those words and posted them where Ashlee could see them. "He is going to harm you. Get out." Think about what it takes to leave a comment like that. You're watching someone's content, someone you probably don't know personally, someone whose life you're observing from a distance through carefully curated posts and videos. And something about the dynamic you're seeing, something about the way her boyfriend appears or doesn't appear, something about the energy between them or the absence of something that should be there, makes you believe this person is in danger. Makes you believe it strongly enough to say it out loud, publicly, where thousands of people can see it. We don't know who left that comment. We don't know what specifically prompted it. Was it something in a video? Body language? The way he looked at her? Or the way she seemed to diminish when he was around? Something he said, or the way he said it? The absence of affection? The presence of control? Some subtle signal that women who've experienced dangerous relationships are trained by experience to recognize? We don't know, but we know the comment was there. Visible. A warning in plain sight. Ashlee either didn't see it, or she saw it and couldn't yet believe it was true. And that possibility that she might have seen the warning and dismissed it because she wasn't ready to see what was right in front of her is a tragedy beneath the tragedy. Because here's what we forget when we judge people for staying in dangerous situations or missing red flags that seem obvious to outsiders. Knowing something intellectually and being able to act on it when you're inside the situation are two completely different things. Ashlee could recognize toxic patterns in the abstract. She could advise her followers on what to avoid, and she could still find herself tangled in something she couldn't untangle fast enough. The gap between teaching others and being able to save yourself is wider than we want to admit. And Ashlee may have fallen into that gap. Ashlee didn't go to Zanzibar alone. She went with her boyfriend, Joseph Martin McCann, who went by Joe. He was 48 years old. They'd been together for 16 months, at least in terms of publicly documented relationship. And Joe had a plan for this trip that Ashlee didn't know about yet. He was going to propose. This was supposed to be a romantic getaway, a birthday celebration, and the beginning of their engagement, all rolled into one. That's the surface story. That's what the trip was supposed to be. But the more you learn about Joe McCann and the relationship he had with Ashlee, the more questions emerge about who he really was and what Ashlee actually knew about the man she thought she was going to marry. Let's start with something simple. Something that might seem superficial but actually tells you a lot about the dynamic between them. In 16 months of publicly documented relationship, Joe McCann never once acknowledged Ashlee on his social media. Not on her birthday. Not on anniversaries. Not in casual posts. Not ever. Now, not everyone shares their relationship online. Some people prefer to keep their personal lives private, and there's nothing inherently wrong with that. But Ashlee's platform was built on authenticity, on showing up, on being visible. She shared her life openly with her community. And Joe was part of that life. He appeared in her world because she was willing to make him visible in her content. But on his end, silence. Complete absence of public acknowledgement. Ashlee shared. Joe remained invisible. That's not a balanced dynamic. That's not two people equally invested in being known as a couple. That's one person willing to be seen and another person who wants the benefits of the relationship without the visibility, without the accountability, without leaving a trail. And when you start looking at Joe McCann's history, that pattern of keeping things hidden, of compartmentalizing his life, of not letting people see the full picture, becomes much clearer. Joe was previously married. That marriage ended. And in the aftermath of that marriage, there were asset transfers that raised questions among people who knew the couple. The specific details of those transfers haven't been made fully public, but the pattern is concerning. Resources that should have been shared were reportedly moved, secured, placed beyond reach. There are also indications of a possible second marriage that investigators are now looking into. If that's confirmed, it would mean Joe was involved in multiple serious relationships that ended under circumstances worth examining. It would suggest a pattern of behavior, a way of moving through relationships that leaves questions in its wake. Joe also has a child, an undisclosed child. Ashlee's family and friends have indicated they weren't aware of this child's existence. Now, blended families are complicated. Not everyone shares every detail of their past immediately when they start a new relationship. People have reasons for being cautious about introducing new partners to children from previous relationships. So the existence of a child that Ashlee didn't know about isn't necessarily sinister on its own. But in the context of everything else, it's another piece of information Joe chose not to share. Another part of his life he kept hidden from the woman he was supposedly planning to marry. Another example of compartmentalization, of keeping people from seeing the whole picture. And then there's the financial situation. 4 months before the trip to Zanzibar, a fund that Joe was involved with collapsed. Again, the full details haven't been made public, but the timing is notable. 4 months before what was meant to be a romantic, expensive trip involving luxury resort accommodations and a safari engagement, Joe experienced a significant financial setback. Was he under financial pressure? Was he facing consequences from that collapse? Did it affect his state of mind, his decision-making, his behavior? We don't know. But it's another piece of context that matters when you're trying to understand what was happening between Ashlee and Joe in the days leading up to her death. Put all of these pieces together. The previous marriage with questionable asset transfers. The possible second marriage under investigation. The undisclosed child. The fund collapse 4 months before the trip. The complete absence of public acknowledgement of Ashlee on his social media for 16 months. What you're looking at is a pattern. You're looking at someone who keeps secrets. Someone who compartmentalizes his life. Someone who doesn't let people see the full picture. Someone who moves through relationships in ways that leave questions behind. And that pattern matters because it tells us that Ashlee may not have known who she was really with. She may have believed she was in a relationship with someone who was fully honest with her. Someone whose past was an open book. Someone who was ready to build a transparent future together. The evidence suggests that's not who Joe McCann was. On April 4th, 2026, Ashlee Jenae Robinson and Joe McCann checked into the Zuri Zanzibar resort. This was supposed to be a 6-day trip. They'd planned to stay through April 10th. The Zuri Zanzibar isn't a budget hotel. It's a luxury resort with private villas, the kind of place people go for milestone celebrations and special occasions. The kind of place where you're supposed to feel pampered and peaceful and far away from everyday stress. They were assigned Villa 25. From the moment they arrived, something was wrong. We know this because someone was listening. A guest staying in Villa 28, just next door to Ashlee and Joe, couldn't help but hear what was happening. The walls of these luxury villas, designed for privacy, apparently weren't enough to contain the volume and intensity of the disputes taking place on the other side. This neighboring guest would later report to hotel management that the couple had been engaged in repeated conflicts and arguments since their arrival on April 4th. Not one argument that blew over. Not a heated discussion that was resolved. Repeated conflicts. Constant arguing. From the day they arrived until the day Ashlee died. Imagine being that neighbor. You've traveled to this beautiful resort. You've paid for a luxury villa. You come to Zanzibar to relax and enjoy paradise. And instead, you're subjected to the sounds of a couple tearing each other apart verbally just on the other side of the wall. At first, you try to ignore it. You tell yourself it's not your business. Couples fight. It happens. Maybe they'll work it out and things will quiet down. But it doesn't stop. It keeps happening. And it keeps getting worse. Day after day, the arguments continued. Whatever was happening between Ashlee and Joe, it wasn't getting better. It was escalating. And then came April 5th, Ashlee's birthday. On the surface, this day looked perfect. This is the day of the giraffe, the rose petals, the Instagram post. This is the day Ashlee stood in that field and wrote chapter 31. And I'm exactly where I need to be. And maybe in that specific moment, she was exactly where she needed to be. Maybe for a few hours, the fighting stopped. Maybe the magic of the experience, the beauty of the setting, the attention and care that went into creating that surprise, made her believe everything was going to be okay. That whatever they'd been fighting about for the past day and a half could be resolved. That the trip could still be what it was supposed to be. Or maybe she was performing. Maybe she was putting on the face she'd learned to put on for her community, showing them the highlight reel while the reality behind the scenes was falling apart. We don't know. We can't know. Ashlee's not here to tell us what she was really feeling when she posted those words. What we do know is that the arguing didn't stop after her birthday. If anything, it got worse. By April 8th, for days into what was supposed to be a 6-day romantic celebration, something changed. That morning, or sometime during the day on April 8th, Ashlee called her mother. She told her mother that she and Joe had been fighting. She described what was happening, and her mother would later state that Ashlee sounded upset about the argument, but not despairing. Not hopeless. Not like someone who had decided life wasn't worth living anymore. This is important. This wasn't a woman in the final throes of a suicidal crisis making a desperate goodbye call. This was a daughter checking in, explaining the situation. Upset, yes, but not beyond reach. Not unreachable. That phone call happened during the day on April 8th. At around 6 o'clock in the evening on April 8th, the argument between Ashlee and Joe reached a level that the guest in Villa 28 could no longer ignore. This wasn't background noise anymore. This wasn't something you could tune out and hope would pass. This was serious enough that the neighbor felt compelled to act. They picked up the phone and called hotel management. Their message was clear. Their neighbors were arguing, and it needed to stop. Hotel management responded to the complaint. They went to Villa 25 to see what was happening, to assess the situation, and to determine whether intervention was necessary. When they arrived and observed the couple, they didn't see two people having a minor disagreement. They didn't see a situation that could be resolved with a simple request to keep the noise down. They saw a situation that had clearly escalated beyond normal relationship tension. The management's assessment was that this was a genuine conflict, one serious enough to require action. The decision they made next is crucial to understanding everything that followed. Rather than simply asking the couple to keep their voices down, rather than offering to move one of them to a different room temporarily so they could cool off, the hotel management made a specific choice. They decided to physically separate Ashlee and Joe. The stated reason, according to the official account from Tanzanian authorities, was to maintain calm and safety at the hotel and to ensure that other guests would not continue to be disturbed by the ongoing disputes. Read that language carefully. Maintain calm and safety. Not just keep the noise down. Not just avoid disturbing other guests. Safety was part of the equation. That word choice suggests they believed there was a risk if the couple remained in close proximity. Whether that risk was to Ashlee, to Joe, to both of them, or to other guests, we don't know for certain. But the action they took speaks to the seriousness of what they witnessed. Ashlee would stay in Villa 25, the accommodation they'd originally checked into together. Joe would be moved to Villa 65. The distance between these two villas wasn't insignificant. It was an 8 to 10 minute walk from one to the other. This wasn't just moving someone to the room next door. This was creating real physical distance between them, ensuring they couldn't easily access each other without making a deliberate effort to walk nearly 10 minutes across the resort property. Think about what that decision tells us. Hotel management didn't view this as a simple noise complaint. They viewed it as a situation that required separation for safety and calm. Those are the exact words used in the official account. You don't separate a couple by an 8 to 10 minute walk because they're being a little too loud. You do that because you've assessed a genuine risk. You do that because the situation you witnessed made you believe that keeping them in close proximity was not safe. What did hotel management see when they entered Villa 25? Were they here? What was the emotional state of Ashlee and Joe? What specific behaviors or words made them conclude that physical separation was necessary? These are questions that hotel staff need to answer under oath. Their observations, their decision-making process, their assessment of the threat level, all of that is critical evidence that should be part of this investigation. But for now, all we know is this. Around 6 o'clock in the evening on April 8th, hotel management separated Ashlee and Joe. Ashlee remained in Villa 25. Joe was moved to Villa 65, an 8 to 10 minute walk away. And in the hours that followed, everything would fall apart. It's around 7:30 in the evening on April 8th, 2026. A room attendant who works at the Zuri Zanzibar is making his rounds. This is part of his regular routine. He's responsible for multiple villas, checking on guests to see if they need any services or assistance, making sure they're comfortable, making sure they have everything they need. He arrives at Villa 25 and encounters Ashlee. According to the official account provided by Tanzanian authorities, Ashlee tells the attendant that she would need services, but she asks him to come back in 10 minutes. It's a reasonable request. Maybe she's in the middle of something. Maybe she wants to freshen up first. Maybe she's waiting for a phone call. Maybe she just needs a few minutes before she's ready to interact with hotel staff. Whatever the reason, she asks for 10 minutes. But then she makes another request. She asks if she can borrow the attendant's phone charger. She explains that her phone battery has a problem. The attendant agrees and hands her his charger. Now, this detail might seem small. It might seem like just another minor piece of information in a complicated story. But this detail matters. This detail matters a lot. Ashlee's phone is dying or already dead. She needs to charge it, and she's making plans for the immediate future. She's asking the attendant to come back in 10 minutes. She's expecting to still be there in 10 minutes. She's expecting to interact with him again, to request whatever services she mentioned needing. These are the actions of someone planning for the next 10 minutes, the next half hour, the next few hours. Someone who needs their phone charged is planning to use that phone. Someone who asks a hotel worker to return in 10 minutes is expecting to still be there when he does. Someone making these kinds of specific near-future plans is not someone who has already decided that the next time that door opens, they'll be hanging in a closet. The attendant takes Ashlee at her word. He gives her the charger. He tells her he'll be back. And then he continues with his duties, moving on to provide services to other villas, including Villa 24 and Villa 26. He's doing his job, attending to other guests, not thinking anything unusual about the interaction he just had with Ashlee. She seemed fine. She made a simple request. She gave him a specific time frame. Everything appeared normal. Approximately 20 minutes pass. The attendant remembers his promise to return to Villa 25. He's kept Ashlee waiting a bit longer than the 10 minutes she requested, but not by much. He heads back to her villa to provide the services she mentioned needing. When he arrives at the door, he knocks. There's no answer. He knocks again. Still nothing. And then he notices something. All the lights inside the villa are off. The entire place is dark. This is the first sign that something has changed. 20 minutes earlier, Ashlee was awake, alert, communicative, making plans for the attendant to return. She was expecting him. She'd asked him to come back. She'd borrowed his phone charger, which presumably she was using. So the attendant's standing there outside Villa 25. He's knocked twice. Nothing. The place is completely dark. And here's the thing. 20 minutes earlier, Ashlee told him to come back. She was expecting him. Now he's got a choice to make. Maybe she fell asleep, and he should just try again later. Maybe she changed her mind about needing help and doesn't want to be bothered. Or maybe something's wrong, and he should check. Hotel staff carry master keys for situations exactly like this. He pulls his out and unlocks the door. Inside, it's just as dark as it looked from the hallway. He steps in carefully, eyes adjusting to the dim light, wondering where Ashlee is and why she didn't answer when he knocked. That's when he hears it, a sound coming from somewhere over on the left side of the room, near the closet. He moves toward it. What he finds in that moment will never leave him. Ashlee's in the closet, hanging there. One of those cloth bathrobe belts, the kind every hotel room has, is wrapped around her neck. The other end is looped over the closet rod. She's not motionless. She's not gone. She's moving, struggling. According to the official statement from Tanzanian authorities, that's the exact word they used, struggling, which tells you everything you need to know. She was still alive. Her body was still fighting. Time hadn't run out yet. So now this attendant is facing an impossible moment. There's a person in front of him who's still alive, still moving, possibly still savable if he acts fast enough. Every second matters. Every decision matters. Logic says you'd immediately try to get her down, right? Support her weight, get that belt off her neck, lay her down, check if she's breathing, start CPR if you need to. Help first, call for backup after. But that's not what happened. He turned and ran. Ran out of the villa, ran to find management, ran to get help. Left Ashlee there while he went for other people. And look, we have to be really careful about judging this. We don't know what training he had. We don't know what the hotel's emergency policies told him to do. We don't know if he'd been specifically instructed never to intervene medically. We don't know if panic took over and he couldn't think straight. We don't know if he looked at the situation and genuinely didn't think he could get her down safely by himself. We don't even know how long it took between him leaving and help actually showing up. All those unknowns matter. Without answers to those questions, it's not fair to condemn the choice he made. But here's what we do know. When he found her, Ashlee was alive. She was struggling. And by the time he came back with help, we don't know what state she was in anymore. We don't know if those minutes made the difference. We don't know if acting immediately might have changed the outcome. Ashlee's family deserves answers to those questions. When management got there, they didn't hesitate. They got her down immediately, started first aid, and called for an ambulance. Ashlee was rushed to the closest hospital as fast as they could get her there. The doctors at that first hospital threw everything they had at saving Ashlee, but she was in bad shape. However long she'd gone without oxygen, whether it was during the incident itself or those crucial minutes before anyone got her down, her brain had already taken serious damage. Here's the brutal truth about oxygen deprivation. Your brain can only go so long before the damage can't be undone. They moved her to a better-equipped facility, Nazi Moja Hospital in Stone Town, the old historic part of Zanzibar City. The medical team there had more resources, more capabilities. They worked around the clock, tried to stabilize her, tried to undo the damage, trying to give her any fighting chance they could. And Ashlee did fight. All through that night and into the next day, April 9th, 2026, she held on while medical teams kept trying everything. But around 3 in the afternoon, about 19 hours after that hotel worker found her in the closet, the doctors had to make the call. Ashlee Jenae Robinson was gone, 31 years old. She'd flown to this island thinking she'd be celebrating her birthday and getting engaged. Instead, she died in a hospital bed halfway around the world from everyone who loved her. The medical examiner's report listed the cause as cerebral hypoxia. Basically, her brain didn't get enough oxygen due to strangulation and suffocation. At first glance, that lines up with what you'd expect, right? But some medical professionals who've looked at the available information say there are details that need clarification that we haven't gotten yet. Here's where it gets technical, but stay with me because it matters. When forensic pathologists examine hanging deaths, they look at 2 different mechanisms. Suspension is when the person's own body weight creates the pressure that cuts off oxygen. Compression is when force gets applied to the neck from outside. A proper autopsy should be able to tell which one happened, and whether the injuries match what you'd see in a self-inflicted situation or if they point to something else. The fact that the report mentions both strangulation and suffocation is interesting. Those aren't the same thing. Strangulation usually means the neck was compressed by some external force. Suffocation means the airways got blocked. When you see both terms in the same forensic report, it suggests what happened might be more complicated than just hanging from a closet rod. Without seeing the complete autopsy report, without knowing exactly what injuries they found and how they're interpreting them, we can't just accept that this was clearly self-inflicted. Ashlee's death immediately kicked off an investigation. Tanzanian authorities needed to figure out what happened, how it happened, and whether any crime had been committed. So let's talk about Joe's response, because this is the part that's really hard to wrap your head around. Ashlee was found around 7:50 p.m. on April 8th, 2026. Paramedics rushed her to the hospital. She got transferred to a better facility. She was in critical condition, fighting to survive. Joe McCann, the guy who'd been with her in Zanzibar, who'd planned this whole romantic proposal, didn't call her family for 11 hours. 11 hours. While Ashlee was in that hospital bed, her parents had absolutely no clue their daughter was dying. For 11 hours, they could have been on the phone with her medical team. They could have been making decisions about her treatment. They could have been frantically booking flights to Tanzania. They could have been saying goodbye if she could still hear them at all. Of all the details in this case, this might be the hardest one to make sense of. When Joe finally did pick up the phone and call, here's what he told them. Ashlee was stable. Yeah, she tried to hurt herself, but she was stable. Everything was under control. He made it sound manageable. Not urgent. Not life or death. Didn't tell them they needed to drop everything and get there immediately. And after that one phone call, radio silence. He stopped talking to the Robinson family completely. Think about that for a second. Really put yourself there. Your partner's just been found in a life-threatening situation and is now in the ICU. What do? Do you wait 11 hours before calling their parents? Do you sugarcoat how serious it is when you finally make that call? Do you then ghost their entire family? Or are you on the phone the second you know what's happening, giving them every piece of information you have, staying in constant contact, coordinating with them, leaning on each other through the absolute worst experience of your lives? That 11-hour gap isn't just weird. It's almost impossible to explain unless Joe was deliberately controlling what information got to Ashlee's family and when. And here's the thing. Even after Ashlee died, Joe still hasn't said anything publicly. No statement about what happened. No public expression of grief. No memories shared about who Ashlee was. He hasn't even asked people to respect his privacy while he mourns. His social media? Silent. Just like it was when Ashlee was alive, and he never mentioned her then either. And he hasn't contacted the Robinson family even once since that phone call, where he told them their daughter was stable. One phone call, 11 hours too late, downplaying how bad things really were. And then absolute silence. No updates. No shared grief with her family. No helping coordinate getting Ashlee home. Nothing at all. The Deputy Director of Criminal Investigations in Zanzibar held a public press conference about the case. The statement was delivered in Swahili, Tanzania's official language. So to make sure there was a clear and accurate understanding of what authorities were saying, the entire briefing was translated by a translator based in Zanzibar. According to the official account, authorities laid out a detailed timeline of events, including what allegedly happened at the hotel and the findings known at that stage of the investigation. Police stated that at the Zuri's Zanzibar Hotel, a 31-year-old American woman identified as Ashlee Jenae Robinson allegedly attempted to take her own life by hanging herself with a gray clothing belt inside the wardrobe of room 25, where she had been staying. Authorities said Ashlee checked into the hotel on April 4th, 2026, alongside her fiancé, 48-year-old Joseph Martin McCann. The couple had been scheduled to check out on April 10th. According to investigators, on April 8th at around 6 p.m., the couple became involved in what police described as a romantic dispute. A guest staying in room 28 reportedly overheard the argument and alerted hotel management, saying the couple next door had been fighting. That same guest allegedly told hotel staff that Ashlee and Joe had been arguing repeatedly ever since arriving at the hotel. According to the statement, the conflicts had not been isolated incidents, but had continued over the course of 4 days. After receiving the complaint, hotel management reportedly approached the couple to ask whether they were experiencing any problems. Authorities said staff quickly realized the situation involved ongoing conflict between the two. To prevent further disturbance to other guests and maintain calm at the resort, management decided to separate the couple. Joe was moved from Villa 25 to Villa 65, which authorities described as an 8 to 10-minute walk away. Police then described the actions of a hotel attendant who routinely checked on guests during the evening to see if they needed assistance. Earlier that evening, around 7:30 p.m., the attendant reportedly spoke with Ashlee, who told him she needed services but asked him to return in about 10 minutes. During that interaction, she also borrowed his phone charger because her phone battery was malfunctioning. The attendant then continued working in nearby rooms, including rooms 24 and 26. Roughly 20 minutes later, he remembered he needed to return to room 25. According to the official statement, he knocked on the door but received no response. The room was locked and the lights were off. Because he had access to an emergency spare key, he opened the door to check inside. Police said the room was dark when he entered. As he moved farther into the room, he heard a sound coming from the wardrobe area on the left side. When he looked inside, he allegedly found Ashlee hanging in the wardrobe, using a cloth belt similar to the ties attached to the hotel bathrobes. Authorities stated that the belt had been fastened to the metal hanging bar inside the wardrobe. The attendant reportedly found her still struggling. He immediately ran out to alert hotel management. Staff rushed to the room, brought her down, administered first aid, and transported her to a nearby hospital for emergency treatment. After initial treatment there, Ashlee was transferred to Nazi Moja Hospital in Stonetown for further care. According to police, she died the following day, April 9th, 2026, at approximately 3 p.m., while still receiving treatment. Authorities said the investigation remains ongoing. Doctors and specialists at Nazi Moja Government Hospital were conducting a post-mortem examination to determine the exact cause of death. Police stated that once the final medical report is completed, investigators would have a clearer understanding of what happened and what ultimately caused Ashlee's death. The statement also urged journalists and members of the public to rely on verified information and avoid spreading unconfirmed reports, warning that misinformation could create confusion about the case. Authorities added that the police, alongside hospital officials and scientific investigators, would continue working to establish the truth. They stated that if evidence of wrongdoing is discovered, action would be taken against whoever was responsible. At the time of the press conference, Ashlee's fiancé, Joe McCann, remained in custody for questioning. Investigators said they were continuing to interview him as they worked to piece together the events surrounding her death. Police also confirmed that the investigation was being conducted in coordination with Ashlee's family. According to authorities, the family had sent a representative from a specialized institution that handles death investigations, operating with authorization from the American Embassy in Tanzania. Officials said they had reviewed the authorization documents, and copies have been sent to the hospital, granting the institution permission from the family to oversee aspects of the investigation into Ashlee Jenae Robinson's death. That is the official version of events presented by Tanzanian authorities. But within those official reports, one detail immediately raises serious questions. The timeline doesn't fully match up. Some reports place the discovery of Ashlee at around 7:50 p.m., which would fit the account of the attendant returning roughly 20 minutes after speaking with her around 7:30. However, other reports claim she was discovered at approximately 2:15 a.m. That's not a minor inconsistency. That's an entirely different timeline. Was Ashlee found shortly after sunset, or several hours later in the middle of the night? The gap is significant, especially in a death investigation where timing can be critical. So which version is correct? And why do the official accounts differ so drastically? There's also the wording authorities use to describe the incident between Ashlee and Joe on April 8th. Police referred to it as a misunderstanding. That description stands out. According to the same reports, the conflict was serious enough that neighboring guests complained to hotel management. Staff reportedly believed the situation was severe enough to separate the couple and relocate Joe to another villa some distance away. Hours later, Ashlee was dead. Calling that a misunderstanding feels unusually understated given the circumstances. After all, hotels typically don't separate couples and relocate one person an 8 to 10-minute walk away over a simple disagreement. That kind of decision usually suggests staff believed there was a genuine concern about safety or escalation. As for Joe McCann, authorities confiscated his passport during the investigation. He is reportedly not allowed to leave Tanzania and continues to be questioned by investigators. At the same time, he has not been formally charged with any crime. For now, he remains in a difficult legal gray area, not free to leave, yet not officially accused. As of April 23, 2026, it has been 15 days since Ashlee Jenae Robinson died. In those 15 days, the autopsy has already been completed, yet the results still have not been shared with her family. Think about that for a moment. The medical examination that could answer the most important questions surrounding Ashlee's death, the examination that could either support or challenge the official suicide narrative, the one piece of forensic evidence that could clarify what truly happened inside that villa, is finished. The findings exist. The report is done. And still, Ashlee's family has not been allowed to see it. Her body has not been released either. She still has not been brought home. Her parents have not been able to lay their daughter to rest. Her sister has not had the chance to say goodbye. Instead, Ashlee remains in a morgue in Tanzania while delays, legal procedures, jurisdictional issues, and whatever discussions may be happening behind closed doors continue to prevent her family from bringing her home. Ashlee's father, Harry Robinson, traveled to Washington, D.C. and went directly to the U.S. State Department seeking help in his daughter's case. He pushed for American officials to intervene urging them to use every available diplomatic channel to get answers from Tanzanian authorities, to obtain the autopsy results, secure the release of Ashlee's body, and ensure the investigation is handled with the transparency and seriousness his daughter deserves. That effort did confirm one thing. The autopsy had been completed, but the actual results were still not released. The system held firm. The information remained trapped behind official procedures, international protocols, and diplomatic processes, barriers that mean very little to a grieving father simply trying to understand how his daughter died. Meanwhile, the hotel surveillance footage still has not been made public. At this point, it's unclear whether usable footage even exists. There's been no clarification about where cameras were positioned, what areas they covered, or what they may have captured during the critical hours of April 8, 2026. There are still major unanswered questions. Did any footage show Joe leaving Villa 65 after he had been relocated there? Did anyone else approach Villa 25 that night? Does the surveillance support the official version of events, or does it raise new questions? If that footage exists, it is evidence. And if investigators have reviewed it, the relevant findings should be addressed openly. The fact that more than 2 weeks have passed since Ashlee's death, and the public still has no information about the surveillance footage is deeply troubling. The hotel key card records also have not been released. Modern hotels digitally log every use of a room key card. They record when a door is opened, which key card was used, and the exact time access occurred. That information should exist. Those records could reveal whether Joe's key card was ever used to enter Villa 25 after he had been moved to Villa 65. They could also show whether any other staff members or guests accessed Ashlee's villa during the critical time frame. Unlike witness testimony or conflicting timelines, key card data is objective. It's time-stamped. It's verifiable, which is why the absence of those records raises even more concerns. Either investigators have not obtained them, which would represent a serious failure in the investigation, or they do have them, and the information contains details authorities are not yet prepared to discuss publicly. Ashlee's family has made one thing very clear. They do not believe the official narrative that she took her own life. In their view, there are simply too many unanswered questions, too many inconsistencies, and too many troubling details that don't fully make sense. Because of those concerns, the family brought in an independent investigator, authorized through the United States Embassy in Tanzania, to monitor the case and help ensure the investigation is handled thoroughly. They have continued pushing for greater transparency from Tanzanian authorities, including access to security footage and other key evidence. At the same time, they've turned to social media to keep Ashlee's story in the public eye and maintain pressure for answers. And that public attention matters. Cases like this, especially those unfolding in another country, can easily disappear from public focus. Without media coverage, public scrutiny, and families demanding accountability, investigations can lose momentum. Evidence can be overlooked or disappear. Witnesses can become harder to reach, and over time the urgency surrounding a case can slowly fade away. But when thousands of people are watching, sharing updates, asking questions, and demanding transparency online, it becomes far more difficult for authorities to quietly move on. Public pressure creates accountability. It keeps attention on the case and forces continued scrutiny. In Ashlee's case, that spotlight may be one of the biggest reasons the investigation continues to face international attention. Ashlee's father, Harry Robinson, later launched a GoFundMe campaign to help bring his daughter's body back to the United States. The fundraiser's goal was $50,000, a reflection of how expensive and complicated it can be to repatriate a loved one's remains from another country, especially while an active investigation and autopsy are still ongoing. The response was immediate and emotional. Many people who had never even met Ashlee were deeply affected by her story and donated to support the family. In a short amount of time, the campaign raised more than $45,000, coming close to its target. But no amount of money can undo what happened or bring Ashlee back. At most, it can help relieve some of the overwhelming financial and logistical burden facing a grieving family trying to bring their daughter home. According to the family, Those funds are also being used to pursue an independent autopsy in the United States once Ashlee's body is released. They do not trust the information that has been withheld from them. They do not trust an investigation in which nearly every major piece of evidence has remained under the control of Tanzanian authorities with little public disclosure. And they do not accept the conclusion that Ashlee died by suicide without further independent examination. So the donations made by supporters are now helping the family hire their own experts and seek their own answers. Answers that won't rely entirely on the cooperation or conclusions of officials they believe may be motivated to close the case quickly and quietly. Meanwhile, the Human Rights Association has formally urged the Tanzanian government to authorize an independent investigation into Ashlee's death. International concern surrounding the case has continued to grow. Human rights organizations and observers around the world are questioning why the investigation has been handled with such limited transparency, why so little information has been released publicly, and why Ashlee's family has struggled to obtain basic answers about how their daughter died. The U.S. Embassy also reportedly sent a coroner to observe the autopsy process. That detail is significant because it suggests American officials recognized early on that the case required oversight and close attention. It indicated there were already concerns about whether the investigation would meet expected international standards. The presence of a U.S. coroner should, in theory, have helped ensure the Robinson family received accurate and timely information regarding the findings. Yet despite all of this, the official response from the U.S. State Department has remained cautious. Their public position is that they are monitoring the situation. Monitoring, that is the word being used. Not intervening. Not publicly demanding answers. Not applying the full force of diplomatic pressure on behalf of the family of an American citizen. Just monitoring. Let's take a step back and separate what is known from what still remains unanswered. What we know is this. Ashlee and Joe checked into a luxury resort in Zanzibar on April 4th, 2026, with plans to stay until April 10th. According to reports, the couple had been arguing repeatedly almost from the moment they arrived. A neighboring guest eventually became concerned enough to report the ongoing disputes to hotel management. We also know that on April 8th, the situation escalated to a point where hotel staff decided to intervene. Management reportedly separated the couple and moved Joe to another villa located roughly 8 to 10 minutes away from Villa 25. A few hours later, a hotel attendant entered Villa 25 and discovered Ashlee hanging inside a closet. According to the official account, she was still alive and struggling when he found her. The attendant then ran to get help instead of attempting to bring her down on his own. Hotel staff responded, administered first aid, and rushed her to the hospital, where she died the following afternoon. We know Joe McCann remains under questioning and that authorities confiscated his passport, preventing him from leaving Tanzania while the investigation continues. We also know an autopsy has been conducted to determine the exact cause and manner of Ashlee's death. And we know Ashlee's family does not accept the explanation that she died by suicide. They believe there are too many unanswered questions and too many suspicious circumstances to rule out the possibility of foul play. But beyond those basic facts, the list of unknowns is much longer. We still don't know what Ashlee and Joe were fighting about during those 4 straight days of conflict. We don't know what specifically happened on April 8th that finally pushed a neighboring guest to contact hotel management. And we don't know exactly what hotel staff saw or heard when they went to intervene. We don't know how Joe reacted when he was told he needed to move to another villa. Did he cooperate immediately? Was he angry? Did he resist? What was his emotional state when he left Villa 25? There are also major unanswered questions about the short window of time before Ashlee was discovered. We don't know what Ashlee was doing during the 10 to 20 minutes between the attendant's first conversation with her and his return to the room. We don't know why her phone battery was dead or failing. We don't know whether she was attempting to contact someone. We don't know if she successfully charged her phone using the attendant's charger, or whether she made any calls, sent messages, or communicated with anyone during that period. And perhaps most importantly, we don't know exactly what happened while Ashlee was alone inside Villa 25. Was she truly alone the entire time? Did anyone else enter the villa? Did Joe remain in Villa 65 after being relocated there? Or did he leave at any point? Does he have a confirmed alibi for those critical minutes? Did anyone see him during that time frame? There are still questions about the physical scene itself. Why were all the lights turned off when the attendant returned? Was the door locked from the inside? Or could it also have been secured from the outside? How exactly did the villa's locking system work? Was it possible for someone to leave the room and still make it appear locked from within? Even the attendant's account leaves questions behind. What exactly did he hear when he entered the darkened villa and noticed sounds coming from the closet area? What did Ashlee's struggling actually look like in practical terms? How much time passed between the moment he discovered her and the moment hotel staff arrived to help? Could those minutes have changed the outcome? Then there's the autopsy itself. We still don't know the full findings. We don't know whether investigators found injuries inconsistent with self-inflicted hanging. We don't know whether there were signs of defensive wounds or evidence suggesting a struggle. We don't know what toxicology tests may reveal or whether any substances were found in Ashlee's system. We don't know whether the forensic evidence ultimately supports the suicide narrative or points investigators in another direction. The unanswered questions surrounding surveillance footage are just as significant. We still don't know what security cameras were installed around the property, what footage exists, or what investigators may have already reviewed. We don't know whether any footage confirms Joe's whereabouts during the critical timeline or contradicts his account. We don't know whether anyone else was seen near Villa 25 that night. And then there's Ashlee's phone. We don't know what was on it. We don't know who she last spoke to or what messages she may have sent. We don't know whether texts, social media activity, or other digital evidence could provide insight into her state of mind or what was happening in her relationship in the hours before her death. These aren't just missing details in a story. They're the difference between truly understanding what happened and simply accepting an explanation that may or may not tell the full truth. They're the questions Ashlee's family believes deserve real answers. And ultimately, they may determine whether this case is remembered as a tragic suicide or something far more disturbing. The warning was there long before Ashlee ever boarded a plane to Tanzania. 5 months earlier, someone left a comment on her Instagram page that read, "He is going to harm you. Get out." We still don't know who wrote it. We don't know what exactly made that person feel compelled to say something so direct and alarming. But the comment existed. It was there in plain sight, a warning publicly posted for anyone to see. Maybe the person noticed something in a video. Maybe it was the way Joe looked at Ashlee, or the way Ashlee carried herself around him. Maybe it was something subtle in his tone, his behavior, or the dynamic between them that felt deeply wrong to someone who had experienced unhealthy or dangerous relationships before. Sometimes people who have lived through those situations learn to recognize signs others overlook: controlling behavior, emotional distance, tension hidden beneath appearances, or the quiet ways someone begins to lose themselves in a relationship. Whether Ashlee saw the comment or not, we don't know. And if she did see it, maybe she wasn't ready to believe it. That possibility alone adds another layer of heartbreak to this story. The idea that a warning may have been right in front of her, but she couldn't yet fully see what it meant. Because that's what makes this case feel especially tragic. Ashlee Jenae Robinson built her platform around one central message: women should choose themselves. The soft life she often talked about was never just about luxury, travel, or expensive lifestyles. At its core, it was about self-worth. It was about refusing to settle for less than you deserve. It was about protecting your peace, trusting your instincts, recognizing red flags, and walking away from situations that diminish you. She spent years encouraging women to value themselves, prioritize their happiness, and demand mutual respect in relationships. Through her content, she built a community of more than 100,000 followers who looked to her as someone promoting confidence, independence, and emotionally healthy choices. And now, the evidence suggests she may have found herself in a situation she couldn't fully see clearly from the inside. Involved with a man whose hidden life and alleged behavior may only now be coming into focus, far away from the people who loved and supported her. That contrast is difficult to process. The woman who encouraged others to recognize warning signs may have struggled to recognize her own. Or perhaps she did recognize them, but didn't know how to get out in time. Because one thing people often forget when judging those who remain in difficult or dangerous relationships is this. Understanding something intellectually is not the same as living through it emotionally. A person can identify toxic patterns in theory. They can give advice to others. They can know exactly what healthy relationships are supposed to look like, and still find themselves trapped in something far more complicated once they are emotionally invested and inside the situation themselves. Ashlee may have understood those dynamics better than most, and still found herself caught in circumstances she could not untangle quickly enough. That warning sat there publicly in her comment section. Someone saw something that worried them enough to speak up. Someone tried to warn her. And now she's gone. Let's go back to April 5th, 2026, Ashlee's birthday. She's in Tanzania, standing in an open field surrounded by breathtaking scenery, the kind of place that feels almost unreal. Rose petals have been carefully arranged on the ground to spell out her name. Nearby, a giraffe gently eats from her hand. One of those rare, unforgettable moments that feels straight out of a dream. Somewhere close by is the man she believed she would spend her future with. He had planned a surprise. He had created this experience for her. And in that moment, Ashlee opened Instagram. The platform she built from the ground up, the community she poured herself into every day, and she posted what would become the final words most people would ever read from her. Chapter 31. And I'm exactly where I need to be. She meant those words. You can feel it in the way she wrote them. This wasn't someone pretending to be happy for social media. This wasn't staged excitement created just for content. Ashlee genuinely believed she was living the life she had worked so hard to build. She felt grateful. She felt fulfilled. She believed she was stepping into a new chapter exactly the way she had always imagined. For years, she encouraged women to create intentional lives. Lives built around peace, self-worth, growth, and purpose. She built a platform followed by more than 100,000 people by showing women what it looked like to choose themselves, refuse to settle, and demand better for their lives and relationships. And on that birthday, Ashlee truly seemed to believe she had arrived at the chapter she had been working toward all along. She deserved that chapter. She deserved the joy of that safari, the excitement of the future she thought was unfolding, the love she believed she had found. She deserved to celebrate turning 31 feeling safe, valued, and deeply loved, not surrounded by danger. Just 3 days later, she was in a hospital fighting for her life. 4 days later, she was gone. Her sister, Alyssa, described Ashlee in a way that captures who she really was. She said Ashlee wasn't just a social media personality or someone people followed online. She was a daughter, a sister, a person who was deeply loved because of the life she brought into the world. The life that she brought. That phrase says everything. Ashlee didn't just exist in people's lives, she energized them. She inspired people. She made women believe they could want more for themselves and actually go after it. She brought warmth, ambition, encouragement, and hope to the people around her. Her family loved her. Her community admired her. She made people feel seen, motivated, and uplifted. That is who Ashlee Jenae Robinson was. Not just a headline, not just a viral story, not simply a cautionary tale about relationships, travel, or social media. She was a real woman whose life mattered deeply to the people who knew and loved her. And as her mother said so powerfully, she is not just going to be discarded and forgotten about. Neither are the unanswered questions surrounding her death. Neither is the reported pattern of Joe McCann's behavior. Neither is the warning someone tried to leave months earlier. Neither is the fact that more than 2 weeks after Ashlee's death, her family still reportedly did not have her body, her autopsy results, or clear answers. As of now, the investigation continues. The search for the truth is far from over. A young woman is dead. The circumstances surrounding her death remain heavily disputed, and a grieving family continues fighting for answers and accountability. Say her name, Ashlee Jenae Robinson. Say it often. Say it loudly. Keep asking what happened inside Villa 25 on April 8th, 2026. Keep demanding transparency. Keep asking whether surveillance footage exists, whether key card records have been reviewed, whether the autopsy findings will be fully shared with her family, and whether all key witnesses will be thoroughly questioned. And keep questioning the timeline and circumstances surrounding a woman who, just hours earlier, had reportedly spoken calmly with her mother, borrowed a phone charger with the intention of returning it, and appeared to be living through a chapter of life she had worked years to reach. If anyone has information about this case, whether they knew Ashlee, knew Joe McCann, or have insight into their relationship or what happened in Zanzibar, those details could matter. Ashlee's family and investigators searching for the truth continue to seek answers. And for everyone following this story, the message from Ashlee's loved ones has remained consistent. Don't let this case fade away. Cases like this deserve more than brief attention before the world moves on. They deserve continued scrutiny, continued questions, and continued pressure for transparency until the truth is fully understood. Ashlee's mother said her daughter would not be forgotten, and the people still demanding answers are trying to make sure that promise is kept. Say her name. Keep asking questions. Because Ashlee Jenae Robinson deserved far more than becoming another unresolved headline.